When you're alone, time slows down, the noise of the world fades, and in that quiet, a new foundation begins to form. A structure that doesn't rely on anyone else. Ethan didn't rebuild overnight. He built in layers, 5 pillars that would hold the weight of his new life, each one forged through struggle, failure, and relentless honesty. It started with emotions, pain, anger, resentment. The storm inside him had to be tamed before anything else could grow. Ethan used to react to everything. Messages, moods, rejections, noise. Now he learned the first rule of survival. Feel everything, react to nothing. He started journaling every night. Not poetic words, raw thoughts. I miss her. I hate how this feels. I'm scared, but he didn't run from it. He faced it. Because facing pain kills its power. There were nights he'd sit in silence, eyes closed, heartbeat loud. And that's when he found something no one had ever taught him. Peace isn't found. It's built. He stopped chasing people who didn't want to stay. He stopped explaining his pain to those who'd never understand. He learned to let silence answer for him. Because true emotional mastery isn't about being cold. It's about staying calm in chaos. Ethan had hit rock bottom, savings gone. Jobless, eating noodles and counting coins. But pain breeds hunger, and hunger, when directed, becomes fire. He began freelancing, writing, editing, taking odd jobs online. The money wasn't much, but it was his. Every earned dollar felt like reclaiming a piece of himself. He realized something powerful. Dependence is the death of dignity. He stopped buying things to impress people. He cancelled subscriptions, sold old clothes, cut his expenses to the bone. He started investing, not just in stocks, but in skills. He read books on finance, discipline, and entrepreneurship. His mindset shifted. Instead of asking, what can I buy? He started asking, what can I build? Months passed. He didn't just earn money, he earned control. And control is the truest wealth there is. He learned, if you can feed yourself, house yourself, and live without begging for help, you're already richer than most. Ethan had always been average, not fit, not lazy, just in between. But solitude revealed something. When you're alone, your body becomes your only home. So he rebuilt it. No fancy gym, no trainer. Just a mat, a pull-up bar, and consistency. Every morning, no excuses. Push-ups until his arms burned, runs until his lungs screamed. He trained not to look good for others, but to prove to himself he could endure. Because discipline, he realized, is built in sweat and repetition. On days he didn't feel like training, he trained twice. He didn't chase motivation anymore. He built routine. The body followed the mind, and the mind followed purpose. Months later, when he caught his reflection again, it wasn't ABs he saw. It was self-respect. He whispered to himself, "You kept your promise," and that hit harder than any compliment ever could. Ethan used to fear being alone. Now he used it like a blade. He realized that solitude sharpens the mind if you don't waste it. No more endless scrolling. No more meaningless drama. He replaced noise with knowledge. Books became his friends. Podcasts became his mentors. Silence became his teacher. He studied psychology, philosophy, business, and history. He learned how great men had all gone through one thing before greatness: isolation. Every night he wrote one quote in his notebook. One that hit him hardest was, "A man who learns to sit alone and be content will never be conquered." And that became his mantra. He started thinking differently. No more victim mindset. No more blaming others. He stopped waiting for life to be fair. He simply became prepared. The more he learned, the more his loneliness transformed. It wasn't a cage anymore. It was a forge. There comes a moment when logic, money, and strength aren't enough. When silence becomes too deep, and you start asking questions bigger than yourself. Why me? What's the point? Who am I without the world's noise? Ethan didn't find his answers in religion. He found them in stillness. He'd sit on his balcony before sunrise, no music, no phone, just breath and awareness. That's when he began to understand he wasn't trying to escape loneliness. He was becoming one with it. He stopped seeing solitude as punishment and started seeing it as purification. He whispered one morning, "Maybe this isn't the end of me. Maybe this is how I begin." And for the first time in years he smiled, not because life was easy, but because it was finally his. Ethan walked through the city, calm, sharp, confident. People noticed, not because he was loud, but because he carried a kind of peace they couldn't fake. He wasn't chasing women, validation, or applause. He didn't need to. His energy spoke louder than words. He met people but didn't depend on them. He dated but never begged for love. He worked hard but never lost his calm. He had mastered his presence, the kind of quiet power that turns heads without trying. And when someone asked him at a cafe one day, "How did you do it, man? How did you survive being alone?" He smiled. "Alone?" he said. "I wasn't alone. I was with the only person who could save me, myself." There's a moment every man faces, when the world stops clapping. When no one texts first, when the phone is silent and the nights are long, that's not your end. That's your beginning, because when you survive solitude, you don't just become stronger, you become free. Free from needing to be liked, free from chasing approval, free from fearing loss. The man who walks alone isn't lost. He's just on a path no one else is brave enough to walk. So build in your silence, train in your solitude, rise in your peace, because one day when the world meets the man you've become, they'll call it confidence. But you'll know the truth, it's survival. It's power. It's presence, and you earned it alone. They say loneliness is quiet, but that's not true. When you're alone, truly alone, it's loud. It screams in the back of your head. It echoes in every message left on read, every empty seat at the table, every time you wake up and realize no one's waiting for you. Ethan used to think he was strong. He had friends, a relationship, a job that paid enough to keep him distracted. But distraction isn't strength. It's just noise pretending to be peace. And when the noise stopped, all that was left was him. It started with small cracks. A relationship built on routine, not love. Friends who disappeared once the party ended. Work that drained more than it rewarded. Then one day, everything fell apart. His girlfriend left, saying she needed more. His best friend stopped answering calls. And his company downsized. He was let go, 3 endings in 1 month. That's how fast a life can collapse. At first, he tried to fill the silence. TV on all night, meaningless scrolling, fake laughs in bars with strangers. But loneliness doesn't leave when you hide from it. It waits, and when it finally found him, it broke him open. Ethan sat in his apartment one night, lights off, one half-empty beer bottle on the floor, his phone face down. No one to call, no one to text. He looked at himself in the mirror, unshaven, tired, lost. "What happened to you?" he whispered. But the reflection didn't answer. That night he cried, not because of loss, but because of realization. He wasn't sad that people left him. He was sad that he didn't know who he was without them. He had built his identity on being someone's boyfriend, someone's friend, someone's employee. But who was he when no one was looking? That was the question that started everything. The next morning he did something simple. He opened the blinds. The sunlight felt sharp, almost intrusive. But it was real, something alive in the dead air of his room. He showered, shaved, put on a clean shirt and walked outside. No destination, no plan. Just movement. He realized he hadn't gone for a walk alone in months, maybe years. He walked for hours, past coffee shops, families, lovers, laughter, all things that once made him feel less. But today something shifted. He didn't feel left out. He felt free. There was a strange peace in being invisible, no one expecting him to talk, smile, or perform. For the first time, he could exist without trying to impress anyone. That was the start of survival. Days turned into weeks. Ethan started building a structure, not because someone told him to, but because he needed it to stay sane. He woke up early, worked out in his small living room, push-ups, squats, pull-ups on a doorframe, made his bed every morning, cooked meals instead of ordering in, wrote a list of goals, small realistic ones, read 10 pages a day, apply for 3 jobs. Walk outside for 30 minutes. No phone for 2 hours before bed. Simple rules, but they gave him order. And order, he realized, is the foundation of strength. But loneliness doesn't disappear, it waits for weakness. There were nights he'd almost call his ex. Nights he'd scroll through dating apps, not for love, but for validation. He tried hookups, short, meaningless nights that ended with longer emptiness. They gave him warmth, but not connection. He wasn't proud of it, but he was human, searching for touch in a world that felt cold. And every time he woke up next to someone who didn't even remember his favorite color, he felt it, that ache of pretending he was okay. That's when he understood. You can't heal loneliness by escaping it. You heal it by facing it. One evening, after a long day of rejection emails, he looked at himself again, and same mirror, different man. He'd lost weight, gained clarity. His eyes weren't sad anymore, they were sharp. Still lonely, yes, but stronger. He said out loud, "You're not broken, you're just alone." There's a difference. And that difference became his turning point. He stopped waiting for people to validate him. He started validating himself. He wrote down 10 things he wanted to master in 5 years. Emotional control, financial independence, health and discipline, stoic mindset, spiritual clarity, communication, leadership, minimalism, purpose. Peace. It wasn't a wish list. It was a blueprint. The blueprint for becoming unshakable. Year 1 was survival. He learned to live with silence, not fight it. He read more, trained harder, and learned to say no, especially to his old habits. Year 2 was growth. He started freelancing, saving money, working from coffee shops. He realized solitude could be power if used right. Year 3 was peace. He stopped explaining his solitude to people. He understood that some paths are meant to be walked alone, not because you're unworthy, but because you're preparing. Year 4 was mastery. He built habits that no one could break, waking up early, meditating, staying focused while others partied. His circle got smaller, but his mind got louder, in the best way. Year 5 was transformation. The man who once broke down crying on his apartment floor now stood in front of a mirror and smiled. He didn't need anyone to complete him. He had built himself on from ashes to armor. One evening he went to a cafe, the same kind he used to hide in. This time he wasn't hiding. He was observing. He saw people rushing, talking, laughing, flirting, all seeking something outside themselves. He felt grateful, because he had found it within. When you master being alone, you become untouchable. Because no rejection, breakup, or failure can break you anymore. You've already faced the worst. Yourself. Ethan didn't become superhuman. He didn't stop feeling pain or loneliness. He just stopped fearing it, and that changed everything. He realized survival wasn't about isolation, it was about self-creation. It's not, how do I live alone? It's, who do I become when no one's watching? And in that question lies the ultimate power. Because once you master solitude, you never chase anyone again. You never beg for validation. You never settle for less. You move through the world quietly, but every step echoes strength. So if you're alone right now, don't see it as punishment. See it as preparation. The universe isolates you when it's time to evolve. Don't rush to escape it, build in it, rise in it. And one day when people ask how you survived, you'll smile and say, I didn't just survive. I rebuilt myself,